I died. It wasn't a particularly spectacular death. In fact, it was fairly embarrassing. I suppose I have nothing better to do right now than to relate to you the sorry state of my corporal body before I left it. I tripped, you see, such a trivial act, but I hadn't been paying attention to where I was going, and fell. I used to silently laugh, thinking on it, that my first instinct was to save my phone, reasoning that I would heal, but my phone would break. But this occupied the use of one hand that may, or may not, have saved my life. One other hand hit the ground first, but bent back with a horrible crack. My head was next. So I died. The next thing I could see, I was standing just inside a huge chasm, tapering endlessly behind me into a tiny white pinprick of light, while a large gate stood in front of me. My first thought, I remember, was that I was dreaming, because I had grown to believe that there is nothing after death. I believe I felt curiously relieved, standing at the gates to heaven, because, oddly, that meant I was alive. But I was wrong, and not for the last time in my afterlife. Julian, a low dark voice had echoed within my mind. "I'm afraid you're certainly quite dead." My head was suddenly filled with memories that were not my own. Images from the eyes of a woman, then doctors and undertakers, and finally a small scene from the perspective of the man who pushed the button that sent my body to be burned. Then I was back in my own being, shaking, alone and very, very dead. I have far too often wondered why I want such a cliché as the pearly gates, and the most suitable of the 2,711 reasons I came up with was that it was the closest thing that the deepest recesses of my belief, or lack thereof, allowed for the crossroads, and that everything after death is subjective. "You're one of the tricky ones," the voice spoke. "Not evil, but certainly not good. And not even a believer, but too good to go to hell for eternity. So, you will go there until you can answer the question that has plagued your species and many others for countless aeons. Why?" It spoke this almost mechanically, and I imagine now that those lines have been spoken for an almost infinite number of souls before me. It is odd, and even now I wonder why. I have decided that the Lord God or Lucifer are both as one. Or would it be both? Or whoever was speaking to me, give me a question just in case, so they didn't feel guilt. If indeed they could, for sending every complicated soul. It was convenient get-out clause that allowed him, them, whatever, to forget about us without having us clutter up heaven. But that's just my idea. I've had others telling me, in the one-way conversation that everyone does now, their own theories, and occasionally I have graced their ideas with a glance in their direction. One person I even looked in the eye, just to break the monotony. It helps them, I think, to know I am still here. The next thing that happened is simple enough to describe. The cave tore away into shreds, and I was falling. Cursed as I am with a near-perfect post-mortem memory, I have counted that I fell for 300 years to the second, and fell into a pool of unimaginably original lava. I have counted that I fell for 300 years to the second, and fell into a pool of unimaginably unoriginal lava. I knew before I reached it that the afterlife would be precisely like the books, and I had preemptively shed my tears for it. It hurt me more than I was burning for my sins than the burning did. I guess I'm still just stubborn. I spent several years, I think, forgive me, but time was not what my mind was on at that part of my afterlife. To remember, it helps not to be consumed with pain. Tumbling and swimming and screaming, every breath brought fresh heat and fresh magma into my lungs. Occasionally, I would hit what I assumed was the rocky walls of the cavern, and brief though they were, they did give me a moment of false hope. The human mind can only take so long of absolute and eternal pain before it begins to work through it. For me, This could just as easily have been a day as it could have been a millennium. I truly cannot tell you how long, only that it was more longfuls than I could bear to count. After this, the souls above call this the shock period. I began to think frantically about why. I tried shouting, but I can say after 3 attempts, chasing the same few bubbles of air I had recycled for however long, through the seemingly infinite stream of molten rock, shouting and damning word did not help in any way. A little, or a lot longer, I had begun training myself to count, to think of several things at once besides pain, and eventually, I could form cohesive sentences in my head. After that, the pain became abstract. It felt like it was happening to someone else. Someone like me, but who was not me. The me that I was always wanted to know why. I wanted to know it fast before I went mad. If I hadn't already. I still cannot remember much of how I managed this feat, nor what happened during my frantic philosophizing. I think I started on logical questions, like, why me? And why am I here? I can say that I have found use for reading on the philosophies, Descartes, Socrates, general term theism, polytheism, relative to monotheism, of course. Eventually, I was reduced to realizing every possible answer to every possible why. I heard a story that a few people, each with hyper-advanced mental discipline, managed to time their stay in hell. They averaged at around 4,000 years. They boasted they could endure any pain and still maintain a clear head. How? I pity them. I can't remember what combination got me out, but that I was still blabbering like a mad hermit when I was on a marble floor. I remember the last why I managed was, why does the rubber not fly through the glass? I gave up on that one once I noticed I was in the chasm of the gate once more. And for the first time actually, I don't think even he knows how long I was down there, but for the first time in ages I breathed in. I was disappointed. Well done, the hated mechanical voice congratulated, after I had reasserted my own existence. You have passed the test, and now you are free to enter through the gates of heaven. I know precisely what hurt me more, that the being had decided that I, being difficult, had given me a test, and that test was done in such a way that I neither knew anything more than I had before. Besides, the second best way to ignore hell, to the point that I didn't even know the moment that I had passed, that I had answered the most important question in existence, and probably outside existence, with no more understanding than an infinite number of monkeys understand the intricals of Shakespeare. And that, to top it all off, God, or whoever, didn't seem to mind. He was content just that I had put the square peg in the square hole, even if I had done it by accident. Close contender to what annoyed me, though, was that I couldn't even bloody remember the right answer. If I could see God, I would have punched him. There was a time, between 30 seconds and 500 and, let's call it almost 600 million years after passing through the gate, that I thought hitting him would be a bad idea. Since then, I've decided that I'd rather the molten hell than this. When I entered heaven, I quickly realized that it wasn't a superficially unimaginative as hell. You could summon, create, say, do, and become anything. You could talk to the greatest thinkers the universe ever had, has, or will have, while eating at a recreation of the universe's best restaurant. Not that you needed to, because you never got hungry, and any flavour you wanted would materialise on your tongue for as long as you want. You never needed to learn anything, or talk to anyone, because, besides being pointless, it could all be done instantaneously by wanting it. You could live your own life again, you could live someone else's, you could live one of your creation, or pick up where you left off. You could reprogram your personality so that you're a bit nicer, or a bit cleverer, or a bit more persistent, or a bit lazier, although not many bothered with that, as far as they told me, because it felt unnerving, being able to change who you are. You could do anything, except die. This was all knowledge that flashed into my perspective of reality within the first few minutes of starting out in heaven, sometimes on empty horizon, but at the flicker of a thought, bustling with people, as I have sat here, People have told me that you never really talk to someone's soul or looking at them. You're looking or talking to an identical copy. That branch of the original the moment he decided he didn't want to talk to anyone. Unless the person wanted to talk to you in the first place. But then he might want to follow a different branch of the conversation. And who's left with who then? And what if the copies want to talk about different topics? I have long since stopped thinking or even caring about such questions. If pressed, however, I would have to say that a God that has this simple an idea about heaven and hell, where hell is eternally lonely burning, and heaven is a nice place to go, then conversations between beings cannot be that complex. It seems outside his retarded mental capacity. But then, I have never explored such ideas. I have just stayed here and listened. The first thing I created was a glass of apple juice. I'll save more exotic liquids for when I get truly desperate for stimulus, and alcohol even after that. If alcohol has any effect, of course. The next thing I did was ensure that I never had anything like the muscle aches my physical body had. The pain you get if you stay too still for too long, and your body itches and groans to move, and gave myself the body I died with. Then I sat. You see, I quickly realised, having thought about this for no small amount of time while alive, that an eternity of anything is an eternity of boredom. There's an unlimited number of eons with which to get tired of any single task. No matter how fun something is, eventually it will lose its spark. And while the next thing may be incredibly interesting, for as long as you have a conscientious mind, you will inevitably grow tired of it. It is a vicious, hateful cycle, which I can only assume hasn't been going on long enough for anyone to feel. Others have realised, of course, but very few have given it too much thought. Hedonism permeates throughout the multi-universe existence, it seems. To combat this inevitability, I resolved to making my existence as long as possible. I planned to take a sip from the glass every billion years, but each time I reached the mark, I found that I had no wish to drink. Space had no influence here, so I was observable to everyone, should they want to see me. Often, they would talk to me, try to engage me in conversation, but each time they were greeted by only silence. After a few thousand years, I had built up a reputation as a great listener, a feat that some made me smile inside, and brightened my existence for many centuries. Because, as you can imagine, with everybody who ever was, gathered in one place, to earn a reputation of any sort is something to be pleased about. The novelty wore off, of course, relatively quickly, but if there is one mission, one reason to be alive, it's that I can and must listen to the unending torrent of happy, thoughtful, weepy, depressing, shouting, playful, evoking, inviting, deepening, sexual, and boring talks that these people offer me. And this is my existence, my me, a statue in the gardens, the streets, and the emptiness of heaven, with no wish to do anything besides talk. I look at the clouds now and then, hanging solidly in the air. I am sure they only exist because I want them to. I have often wondered if my one-way interactions with others here are the same, but I try not to think about that, because I always find no reason not to believe that, and get depressed. Nobody, insofar as I can tell, has ever seen God, whether that's because he doesn't want to be seen, or, as some suspect, because he doesn't exist, is irrelevant to me. All that matters is that I haven't, nor ever likely will, have the chance to strangle him. I heard an interesting theory that God is in fact a computer, systematically categorizing people and applying values of merit to them. It makes a certain amount of sense sometimes. People keep trying to get me to move, to do something. They say that they aren't bored yet, and that they don't think they ever will be. They claim that I must have lost my sanity. Maybe they're right. But I haven't ever heard of anyone else losing theirs. I think I'll stay as I am. I'm passing my trillion year mark. 3 triplets. I find now as good a time as any to put my memory to use. A woman whispered to me a few days ago. She said that someone had learned how to forget. I have never before in heaven smiled. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.